Yo, 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 how's everyone doing? It's your boy Skilled Fawn, and today we are going to be doing a Liza P challenge run. Let's waste no time and get into the rules. Starting off, we are doing a daggers only run. This means that I can only use a primary or secondary dagger weapon. Next up, I can use the starting weapon until the dagger. The first dagger you get is in 2-1, so everything in world or area 1 will be just using the starting weapons. I must beat the game. No specters are allowed. Glitches and or exploits are allowed. And lastly, legions are allowed. I'm excited to get into this run. This is a fun challenge run that I like to do with a lot of the Soulsborne games. Check out the link above for similar dagger runs. Now, on to the video. I'm going to be starting off at 2-1, where I start with a dagger. Before this, I was using the dex build. At the beginning of the game, Liza P makes the player choose 3 classes, and so I used the dex build up till this point. We grab the first weapon, which is the Salamander Dagger. This is great as it slowly builds up overheat status effect. This will make the boss's health slowly tick down. Let's head on over to the King Flame fight. Next, we have a very interesting boss. This boss can shoot multiple projectiles which are on fire. Combine this with having quick attacks, it can be a very tough fight. As I mentioned in the rules, I cannot summon specters, which are NPC helpers that fight with you in a boss arena. This will make things more interesting to watch and make things a lot more challenging, which I enjoy. I should also mention that certain bosses will speak to Pinocchio, aka the main protagonist / player. You can see that the words are distorted, and if you manage to play through the game and get to New Game Plus, the dialogue will be able to be viewed and not distorted, so it's actually pretty cool. Eventually, we do take him down, and so let's keep progressing. Over in the next area, we find that people and puppets have succumbed to petrification disease, which turned them into monsters. The main boss in this area is really fun to fight. It's a weird frog-human hybrid and is executed well, in my opinion. It has a lot of slow and staggered attacks, but they will deal a lot of damage if not parried at the correct moment. The combat in this game is really awesome, and for those unfamiliar, I will briefly explain it. Essentially, the player can parry the boss's attacks and slowly build up the boss's groggy meter. If the player keeps damaging the boss and parrying at the correct time, then the boss's health bar will glow white. This indicates to the player that they can stagger the boss. Anyways, we send the boss into phase 2, which changes the fight a lot. The player can choose which side of the boss to fight, and this reminds me of that spider boss in DS2. I think it's Archduke Freya or something. Or wait, no, well, Archduke's the boss we're fighting, but it's like something Freya. I actually spacing on her name. It's a game I'm gonna have to play again, but we take him down, and now we get to witness one of the most dramatic and cool cutscenes this game has to offer.
And now, the stage is set.
Let's head on over to the Black Rabbit Brotherhood fight. This is a hard fight as its boss is basically a tank-like enemy and has very quick attacks and long combos. It doesn't help that this boss gets help as the fight goes on. There are 3 additional members that can be fought throughout the fight, and when they have low enough health, they will get summoned. So it just like keeps on getting harder, basically. Just gonna have to continually fight someone else. Now, things did get pretty scary because I did get low on health and didn't want to die a few times, and I actually did end up dying quite a bit, but we do take down the eldest brother, so let's move on. One thing I should mention is that in Liza P, there are very few ways to upgrade the player. There are weapon upgrades, stat upgrades, legion upgrades, but there's also something called P organs. These essentially are passive upgrades and are similar to Bloodborne's system. The player can select from the upgrades, and when they do, there will be 4 categories that will pop up: attack type, defense type, and so on. When the correct amount of quartz is placed, the player will get that upgrade, but if not, they will not get the upgrade if they're not all filled. Up next is one of my favorite bosses in the game, which is the King of Puppets. This boss is a 2-stage boss and has many high damaging attacks. Luckily, the first half of his first phase I'm quite good at, especially parrying. The other end of phase 1 is difficult as he has many attacks that are after the other, which can be difficult to parry. Up next, we see the King of Puppets' true form, so let's take him down. And one thing I enjoy about Soulsborne games is when bosses talk to the player, because this shows a lot about the world, information about the boss, and their ambitions and stuff like that. For instance, I really like the Consumed King in DS3. He may not be the hardest boss, but his lore is it's top tier. Eventually, we do take down the King of Puppets, so on to Champion Victor. The fights from this point on get insane for the fact that bosses are going to destroy the player's health bar if they miss the parry window. Many bosses will have grab attacks, which can massively hurt the player. And in this boss fight, whenever the boss does grab the player, at the very end, if you don't actually roll out of the way, he can just finish you off if you still have the health. But his phase 2 is extremely difficult as he has many attacks in his combos, with many of them being perilous attacks. I believe that in Liza P they're actually called Fury attacks, but it's basically the same thing. Like in Sekiro, bosses have red highlighted attacks which can be blocked, but only if parried at the correct moment. I believe they have less iframes that you can parry. Though in Liza P, grab attacks aren't highlighted in red. Eventually, we do take him down and see that Laxia and Simon Manus appear. This was that guy from the dramatic cutscene I showed previously. After that, we are going to head into the Green Monster of the Swamps fight. This fight can be hard as the boss has the decay status effect. This drains the player's health and weapon durability, which can be quite a pain to deal with. Luckily, this boss is fairly simple. Its phase 2 is similar to a boss that I fought in 1.3, which I didn't showcase as it was before I had a dagger. Now, there are plenty of daggers in Liza P which I do grab and use, but I found the one I picked up early on was fantastic, as it has a status effect on the weapon. Fortunately, this means that I can't infuse the weapon with decay or electric blitz. One thing I can infuse the weapon with is certain special grindstones, such as better guarding versions. Currently, I have a decent one equipped, but we will get arguably one of the best ones after the second Black Rabbit Brotherhood encounter. After taking down the boss, we head into the next area. Pretty cool, but here we open a secret door after the hotel was attacked. In Liza P, Hotel Krot is the safe haven in this world. In Dark Souls 3, it's Firelink Shrine. In Sekiro, it's the dilapidated temple, and so on. Now, we are on our way to the Alchemist Island. Before the island, we find the Black Rabbit Brotherhood is blocking the entrance where the submarine is. After taking down a few of the members, which was a mistake, I should have actually just made 2 of them weak instead of killing 2 of them, because there's 3, and then just take them down simultaneously. This would have made the fight a lot easier, But since I did it this way, it made it a lot harder since it's a 2v1 fight in phase 2. Here we fight the eldest brother of the clan, and the alchemist did bring him back from the dead, so we're just gonna have to fight him all over again, and he's got enhanced movesets, so. But once we do take him down, we're gonna progress over to the island and face off against my favorite boss in this game. Laxia the Complete is such a cool and challenging boss fight. Had a really difficult time in this boss fight and spent a long time getting used to her attacks. When I played this game for the first time and did New Game Plus, I did them with specters, so I didn't learn the boss's moves as good as a solar run would have. Eventually we send her into phase 2, which is fun but extremely challenging, especially the lightning attacks that she tosses out. But it is really cool though, because you are able to send the lightning back to her. This phase is extremely quick, but it has staggered attacks also, so it can be hard to tell the difference. I think it's cool too when you stagger certain bosses, they won't let the player fatally blow them right away, so it keeps you on your toes, and you have to watch out for what attacks if you're not familiar with that boss. In this phase, she utilizes the electric blitz status effect, which, if filled, will increase damage dealt against the player and will drain the Fable bars in the top left. It's very similar to Frost and Elden Ring. After some time and with patience and a lot of bloodshed, we do take her down, so let's move on to the next boss. Next, we find that Simon Manus, the main antagonist of the whole game, has turned himself into a monster by harvesting all the ergo from dead puppets. One reason that this fight is difficult is that this boss has an insanely long reach, as his weapon is massive. It doesn't help that this boss hits hard and has many AoE attacks. In his phase 2, he just goes absolutely insane, and yeah, just you can see on the screen now, it just goes so hard. But with time and patience, we do take him down, so let's head into the final boss.
I knew you can be. If you give me your heart. You have been a brilliant and a good boy. Give me. I believed you were, but a father in my own way. I'm disappointed in you. I didn't mean for this to happen. I believed you were a good boy. If you refuse, then I'll have to retrieve it myself. My son.
After we see Pinocchio and Geppetto talk, we see a puppet come out from the box. This is the first puppet that he created. This fight is a test of pretty much everything that the player has learned up to this point. I did die many times and suffered so much. But yeah, eventually I did get a good run where I really learned his phase 1 parry windows, and then in phase 2 I decided dodging was the better option. The good thing about his attacks are that most in phase 1 are quite slow, so this gives the player the chance to react. Phase 2 is a different story, as the boss can split his sword into two, a spear, or just into his regular sword that he was using before, and totally annihilate the player with quick and high damaging attacks. When I fought this boss in my first playthrough, I was taken aback by how hard he was, but thankfully I learned his attacks well since then. By this point too, I am using the best special grindstone, which allows me to keep block and get perfect parry timings. Usually the player has to parry/block at the correct time to get the perfect parry, but this grindstone allows me to bypass the window and continually block. This is kind of a cheat code, to be honest, but is equalized in strength by its limited duration. Eventually we do take down the final boss, and yeah, this is Lies of P, Daggers Only. It was such a fun and fairly challenging run, as this was my first playthrough not using specters, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and or subscribe for more content. If we can get this video to 100 likes, then I will do a no leveling run soon for this game. Now I will quickly talk about upcoming things. Expect to see a lot of Elden Ring and Sekiro challenges soon, especially since Elden Ring's DLC will be coming out. I am excited to cover that when it releases, and I also have another Lies of P run coming soon, which is a Legionless run. Thank you for coming by, and hope to see you in the next one. Till then, be safe, and try to do something kind for someone today. This is your boy Skilled Fawn, and I'm out.